Welcome to Leadership Speaking Radio, the podcast for professional speakers, industry leaders, and change makers who want to learn how to communicate with impact, authenticity, and human connection in the digital age. My name is Dr. Laura Penn. I'm the founder of the Leadership Speaking School, and I'm your host. Visit my website, theleadershipspeakingschool.com, to find out more about how you can show up as the best version of yourself every time you speak. Now, let's get straight into our topic. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next edition of the Leadership Speaking Radio podcast. Oh my, have I got an incredible conversation for you to hear. I am speaking with none other than Nick Looby. He's a speaker, trainer, and conversation enabler. Folks, this is his background. With his potent and unique approach to communication, Nick will not only alter the way you think, but more importantly, transform the way you act. Nick continues to help some of the world's most influential organizations, including HSBC, Bayer Animal Health, Procter & Gamble, PwC, and the BBC, to greater success by enabling them to communicate with more courage, influence, and purpose. Over the past 7+ years, Nick has been working with the public sector and the Ministry of Housing and Local Government in the UK to assist local authorities with some of their biggest challenges, shifting mindsets, enabling change, and driving productivity. Ladies and gentlemen, I had the privilege of having a full-on hour-plus long conversation with Nick. We nerd out on our favorite topic, which is about communicating in the digital age and what human-centric communication is. Now, you know I love me some human-centric communication. So this podcast episode and this conversation go in. I hope that you enjoy it as much as I delighted in having a conversation with Nick. Here it goes. Welcome to the Leadership Speaking Radio podcast. I cannot tell you how excited I have been about this conversation that we are about to have. We are going to get straight into it. Are you ready?
Certainly am, Laura. Thank you very much for having me along. Very kind.
All right. So what exactly is, this is the burning question, human-centric communication? Get in it.
What a great place to start. Thank you very much. It does sound a bit strange, to be fair. The world needs more human-centric communication, and it's most definitely what I'm now devoting the rest of my working life to. So we evolved to be brilliant, absolutely brilliant at communicating with one another. Over 30+ million years, we've evolved to be human-centric in the way that we interact with one another. And then, oddly enough, technology came along 20, 30 years ago that disrupted all of that, changed the dynamic totally. We got very excited about it. We let it do most of the heavy lifting from a communication point of view. And we left the human-centric skills that we evolved to have. We left them behind. So my role as a specialist in human-centric communication is to try and bring people back to what they already are amazing at, almost like reminding us lovely humans of our superpowers, and to try and flex those skills that you and I, because of what we do, you and I know that they're the skills that resonate with others the most.
Oh man, this is, singing my favorite song right now. And, honestly, when I first discovered your work, I was like, a kindred spirit, a man who is in the same lane that I am, talking about the same superpowers, the same 30 million, years of evolutionary history that have built our communication machines, and how we are just absconding with it, getting rid of it and not using it. A question that's popping up, and literally at the tip of my tongue right now, is, but why didn't we take into account our human brilliance and superpowers with the digital? Is it the fault of with all due respect, the people who are doing the tech? Are they just not thinking about that? Like, what happened?
Yeah, I can't say they're faultless, that's for sure. The tech geniuses, they've known all along how things have progressed. The brilliance of their human psychology knowledge. They know what they're doing, okay, and they should be ashamed of themselves in many, many, many respects. But somewhere along the lines, we were sold down the river of give it to me cheaper, give it to me easier, and give it to me in a more convenient way.
Yeah.
Cheap, easy, convenient. And what that did, we fell in love with that stuff. What
Hmm.
that did, it trumped all of the empathy, the rapport, and the resonance that we used to use to communicate with one another. And then we just fell in love with, oh, much cheaper. Emails, oh my goodness gracious, we can't send enough of the things
Yeah.
because it's so cheap and easy and convenient without asking ourselves the question, is it the best method of communicating this particular message? And now it gets worse. Sorry, bad news, Laura. Um, AI drives the efficiency. So not only is it cheap, easy, and convenient, but now it's massively efficient because the machines will do most of the work for us. And
Yeah.
I
Go
guess, I
on.
guess in theory, we it feels like we're getting more done,
Hmm.
and the world wants us to get more done. It wants to absolutely drive productivity and profits on the back of that. But it doesn't stop and ask the important question. Yeah, but is that the best course of action?
Right. And immediately with this kind of conversation and with this topic in general, I think, humans are being turned into machines. And stop the freaking bus. We are not machines. You know? And this lack of friction, which you and I grew up with, things were difficult, It wasn't difficult to rotary dial on the phone, but it was certainly, you didn't just click a button and then, a person's picture and their phone number and then, you're connected to them on the other side of the world happened. So that lack of friction and that ease and convenience, I don't know. I think there's a combination of people, like you're saying, loving it, but also there's an element of laziness and an inertia where people are used to this. Oh, well, it's just so easy now, and I don't have to think anymore. But at the expense of our humanity, at the expense of, as you mentioned, empathy and human connection. And, in the line of work that both of us do in communication, the cost of this is just it's ravaging how people are talking to each other. What are you seeing out there on the front line?
The first thing I notice, and it's tragic, is that empathy is being sucked out of the world. You don't have to look far, and you think, wow, that's harsh, that's nasty. You look at what people are watching on TV. You look at the conversations that people have. You look at what's potentially happening across social media platforms. There does seem to be a massive, massive lack of empathy, which is incredibly tragic. You hit the nail on the head when you said at the cost of our humanity.
Yes.
Somewhere along the lines, we've confused the an interaction, which is kind of this. It's a human thing, this interaction, with a transaction,
Yes.
which is
Very well
just a
said.
just a thing. I'll
Mm-hmm.
just ping that email. I'll just
Yep.
I'll just do this. I'll do that. And transactional stuff doesn't require any empathy.
Right.
And the world is certainly shifted more transactions, more transactions.
Yes. Yes.
And that's not, we've not evolved to be any good at that.
No. And
We're
look,
all at sea in a
right.
noise, absolute, an ocean of noise.
An ocean of noise, but also an ocean of destruction. I mean, look outside and see the level of environmental destruction, which is, one of the fruits of not having empathy or caring and also spending too much time inside. you know I just feel like there's a nuclear bomb that's gone off, and I don't use those words lightly when I say that, but a nuclear bomb has gone off in terms of the human superpower of care for others and for our environment.
It sounds bleak, doesn't it?
It is
It
bleak.
does. It just seems to be for some considerable time, the things that have been rewarded are like that kind of brain.
Yeah, yeah,
activity. If you can send 100 emails, then you're probably going to be rewarded more than someone who sends 10. You know, and forget the content, forget the intention. It's just numbers. And the technology will lend itself to, in theory, getting more done.
yeah,
Um, which wasn't, I don't remember that being the case always. Right? It was the tools were in theory were going to enable more human, but they've replaced it,
yeah.
um, which is a bleak direction to be heading. And it's a tough start to the podcast, isn't it?
I know, I
We're
know.
painting such
We get
a grim picture.
we get the bad stuff out of the way first.
Yeah,
How
okay,
about that?
okay.
And that's
Let's get
gonna,
out of the way.
yeah, we will, and that's gonna lead to this plentiful garden of biodiversity.
Nice.
But kind of as a bridge to that garden, I'm noticing that through my kids and through the people close to me, many people are kind of going back to analog things. So I read some headlines somewhere that the vinyl record industry had $1 billion year,
Mm.
$1 billion plus year. And I'm thinking, oh, because people want to handle the vinyl. They want to see that little needle in the record and then, move the things and use their hands and listen to that kind of quality of audio. And I thought, oh, this is a pop of hope that as much as, we feel numb almost to this noise and the digital age, that humanity that's still in all of us and is not going to be disappearing anytime soon, maybe just, hidden, that's going to start coming out more. And it is. What are you seeing as signs that people are kind of coming out of the cave, as it were?
Coming out of the cave. I like that analogy. Yeah, and we should come out of the tech cave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see similar. I see that there is seems to be a hunger for authenticity.
Yeah.
So certain things you think, oh, there's a glimmer of hope. They're selling more board games. They're selling more things that require people to be in the same room and interacting with one another. I think this is I could be very wrong, and the board game industry will be up in arms, going, "No, it's falling apart, Nick. You don't know what you're talking about." But I'm sensing people are starting to value again the authentic stuff,
Yeah.
authentic interactions, having proper time with one another, getting out into nature. There seems to be a bit of a kind of a courageous move away from the technology. Here in the UK, there's some serious debates about phones in schools and the banning of phones in schools across the board, which I guess is an indication that someone in power is realizing that all the things we're talking about are happening and we need to do something about it.
Yeah.
So there does seem to be value in the authentic.
Yeah. And I'd say almost a yearning for, a longing, because you and I know that feeling, I'm sure. I'm assuming here, but you binge watch a Netflix series and you feel
Yeah.
kind of guilty,
Guilty, right?
right?
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. You feel kind of guilty. You're like, oh, I should be, oh, what about the garden? Oh, I got to take out the trash. And then, family members come in the room and you're like, go away. And then after that binge experience is over, you've got to the conclusion of the damn episode and you're like, I've just, that took 6 hours away from my life that I'm never going to get back.
Hmm.
you know? And I feel like there's a kind of waking up. I know personally I'm having a waking up, and the people around me are too, but there's a waking up. And again, this tech cave coming back out into the light. And there's so much life waiting for people there. Nick, when it comes to people communicating, what is waiting? What are they not doing in the cave that they can be doing outside of that cave?
Oh, Laura, that it's such a rich seam of magic. If if you can get out, the step out of the cave, see the light, and be courageous enough, because it used to be took it for granted, unfortunately. But now you need a little bit of courage to either pick up the phone and speak to someone or arrange to actually meet someone face to face. And that rich seam is what we started the conversation about, the evolution of us, to be able to tap into that rich seam of body language, of intonation, of that kind of that the velvet that we have in our voices, all that lovely that flexibility that we have in our voice, the freedom to share and tell stories with one another, that rich color that you can add to a conversation, which you simply do not get across any of the technical platforms. When was the last time you read an email and it made you cry?
Mm.
Right, compared to I read a book and it made me cry, or I had a
Mm-hmm.
conversation with a dear friend and the emotions were uncontrollable.
Yeah, yeah.
There is, I know there's a time and a place. All right, I'm not expecting people to shed big tears when I send them an email, um, but there's a time and a place. There's transactional stuff, but there's also interactional human stuff,
Yeah.
and we're worse off if we push it to one side and
Yeah.
live in the cave. I'm
A
loving the
hundred
cave
percent.
analogy.
Yeah. Yeah, that cave, I mean, there's a lot of metaphor coming out with that one. And I was also thinking about this word that you used, courage. And man, it takes so much courage to go in the other direction. It takes so much courage to defeat the death grip of inertia. I remember doing a training a couple of years ago, just around the COVID period, where I was supporting an organization to do online training for their staff. So I was teaching them how to come across online and not be, a floating head,
Yeah, good, nice.
right? That was just going to speak, and look blankly, deer in the headlight style onto the camera and talk about something technical. So I was teaching them stuff. And I did this training. It was 12 hours worth of work. And a couple weeks later, I checked in on the group. I kind of spied on them. And everybody was back to the floating head. And I thought, oh man, what are we dealing with here? And that's when I started thinking about courage. And that's when I started thinking about inertia and writing about it. Because, to be different, to be the different one, or to be the person that's sort of shaking the tree is really uncomfortable. But it's a battle cry, at least, from me, and it sounds like from you too, to like get over it. you know, why are you not using what is already there to enhance these conversations? What is your battle cry?
So my for many years now has all been about, it's been about the zombies, right? The
Yes.
zombie Armageddon. This is the metaphor that I've found incredibly useful. And I've been on stage and I encouraged audiences to become metaphorical zombie slayers, to identify the zombies out there and to use the human-centric communication skills to fight the zombie horde. But sadly, we are most definitely losing the war. We're losing that, the zombie Armageddon is upon us, and we weren't ready, right, to fight like we know we should have been fighting. We just let the zombies just do their thing. And they just once you start thinking about the way people communicate more like zombies than humans,
Yeah.
you won't be able to not see them
Yeah,
out
they're
there. Next
everywhere.
time you're on public transport, next time you're
Mm.
walking down the street, next time you're having a meal out, you'll see the
Yep.
zombies kind of just consuming the brains that are their
Yeah.
mobile devices. Um, so for many years now, Laura, I have been encouraging people to become modern zombie slayers.
Is it working? Is it working, Nick?
No, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't, either the tech is too good.
Mm-hmm.
The tech geniuses are far too smart, far
Yeah.
too clever. Psychologically, they know how to manipulate us. We're in a world that is driven by um, more and better and faster and more efficient kind of growth frenzy that we're in.
Yeah.
And it takes incredible courage
Yeah.
to stop and to reconsider your options,
Right.
to
And with
pick
that, a
up
certain
your,
amount of energy.
yeah, if you're going to wield a metaphorical
Yeah,
machete,
that's right.
it takes courage,
Mm-hmm.
and a certain number of skills, but
Mm.
um, they're not none of it's rocket science. These human-centric skills aren't rocket science. we know we we know what they are.
Yes.
Um,
I think we should go into that. I
all
think,
right.
if the listeners are probably thinking, yeah, but what are those skills? I think we our combined intelligence and repertory in this field is delicious. So let's open the box. What kind of skills are we talking about? What can people be doing?
Um, First place to start. Be courageous. Okay, you've got to first a tiny bit of bad news, right? First of all, you've got to appreciate that human-centric options, human-centric communication is akin to taking the stairs when right next to the stairs, you've got the escalator.
I love it.
Okay.
That's a
So
perfect
everyone's on
metaphor.
the escalator, right?
Yes.
It's full. I don't know where they're going, but they're all heading in a particular direction. The stairs, that's where us zombie slayers live.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's more difficult. It takes more effort. It's
Yep.
better for us, metaphorically and physically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you're traveling up the stairs and you realize you've gone in the wrong direction, you can come down easily. Okay. But the first lesson is it's more difficult than communicating on your technology.
Yeah. It takes more effort.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
But so much value in there.
Exactly.
So
The
we could start
reward
with
is bigger.
storytelling.
Go.
Storytelling, here's a place to start, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got hundreds of stories that they can share, right? Any particular point that you want to make that's really valuable, somewhere you've got a story you can use to illustrate that point. Us humans have been telling stories forever. We love to hear them. We love to tell them. They don't have to be long, rambling stories. Just give me an illustration of that point that you're trying to make so that I can understand what it looks and feels like.
100%. I'm going to inject myself in here for a second. And first of all, celebrate this first thing that you're talking about, storytelling. It's in our DNA to tell stories. This is
Mm.
us, this is our design. And what's tragically starting to happen, and I notice in this in our conversation, we're going in from the hell to the heaven, the fire to the ice. You know, what I'm seeing is people are getting kind of rusty at telling stories, and kind of that fluidity of the mouth, the people being used to having the transactional conversation of just talking about the facts and the data and the info, and that loveliness and the senses and the colors and the vibrance of painting pictures like handwriting. It's starting to become a little bit but we need to keep that muscle, for lack of a better term, active. So how do people get good at telling stories, Nick? Besides being invited to tell them, how do you keep that alive?
It requires you need kind of almost permission
Yeah,
these days to be in a conversation where it's okay to tell stories,
you're right.
right? We're so good at telling stories, and so it's so regular for us. If as soon as we take ourselves out of that kind of corporate environment, we are telling stories almost non-stop.
You're right. In our
You go for a cup of
conversations.
coffee with
Yep.
friends, you go
Yep.
for a drink, you go anywhere, and most of the conversation is sharing stories. What happened? Who was there? What did it
True.
look like? What did it feel like? What did it
Mm-hmm.
mean? And it's not really gone away. We've just stopped using it when it really counts.
Yeah.
Um, in and an interaction with another human to say there's something that's really important that you've got to understand, or something that we're doing together is hugely important, and it's going to be beneficial. And this is what it looks like. It's a bit like when this happens and that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Or the other day I was climbing up a mountain, and what I realized was this, or I was playing with my kids and this happened,
Yeah.
and what that taught me was this. And all of those things, that the massive resonance between us humans when we're talking about that kind of activity.
Yes.
And it's so simple, and everyone can do it, and we've grown up
Yeah,
having
it's in us.
brilliant
It's
stories
it's
told
of
to us.
us. But here's something I've just thought of as you were talking. I was thinking time.
Mm,
Because all of this, let's be frank, this digital noise slash revolution that's going on is is about time. using these tools so that we have more time. But then in the conversation mode, taking time to tell a story cuts into some of that, transactional and, going from point A to Z. There's something there where I don't feel like people feel like they have the time to tell a story or that it's appropriate to tell one because people have other things to do and meetings to go to. And I think that that's a barrier. But I think that the permission to tell the story, the understanding that telling a story is going to do something and harmonize that moment and really synthesize that message, definitely that's something that people need to know more of. Let's fast forward to another thing. What else can people be doing with their amazing human machines?
So we talked about empathy and the lack
Yeah.
of being sucked out of the world. Um, one of the, and we're once again, we're brilliant at this, showing one another why we should care. We're so busy sharing content. Here's a load of content, a load of information. Download this, have this. We stop and don't really give enough time to say why would that person, that audience, care about this?
Yeah.
Um, which just requires us to stop and think. So what? So What? Why is it that we're communicating this, sharing this, doing this? Um, and there's a lot of conversation about, start with why out there, quite rightly so. But we shouldn't just start with why. We should constantly ask ourselves why.
Mm,
Why would you care about this? And if I've not got an answer for that,
right.
then I need to have a rethink.
Yeah.
Because if you don't care, you won't act. Right? And if
Totally.
you won't act, nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it derives from empathy, but requires us to have a little think about, oh, why would they care about that? Why would an audience care that the world is becoming more zombie than human? And
Mm-hmm.
then my job to remind people why that's a very sad state of affairs.
Right. It's interesting. My job is straight into what you're saying here is not to make it the me show, but to make it the we show. What's in it for
Nice.
you, right? As the audience.
Yeah.
Because I always teach this to my students, asking yourself as you're creating that content, what are the needs and interests of your audience? And, they're asking themselves, why are we here and what's in it for me? So your job is to create that content, to make that, relevant to that person so that person feels like they're in the right room. It's so interesting. I love how we're saying similar things with different language.
Yeah, very true. It's
Right?
it's brilliant how human brains work. Fantastic.
But I also love the synthesis of one word for you talking about this category right now is empathy, because it's absolutely about that, feeling what other people feel. Um, what else? I'm so greedy for more. So we've got storytelling, we've got empathy. What else?
This one, if you're really courageous, too few people do this, right? When they're communicating, is the art of surprise.
Oh, go on.
Um, it, it- so rare is the art of surprise that you can't not have a massive impact with it. I think you need to think, you need to be quite courageous, of course, be very brave. If you're going to use a method like surprise, so the beauty of surprise is it gets interest. All right. And as long as your content, your whatever follows is of value to maintain that interest. But we are so busy, we lack so much time that it's the thing that's surprising that gets our attention. And then ideally, we've got some good stuff to share. And once I've got your attention, then the good stuff follows. One of the negative ways people use this is just clickbait, some
Yeah,
sort of nonsense headline that
exactly.
is either shocking
Sensationalizing.
or
Mm-hmm.
surprising. You think,
Yeah,
oh, it gets your attention, but
yeah.
we know now it's just nonsense.
It's junk.
The junk will follow.
Mm-hmm.
But human to human, or when you're working with an audience. So I played catch. My first ever TEDx talk. I played catch with the entire audience.
How
Um,
did that
yeah,
work?
this takes courage.
Yes, it does.
and massively unexpected.
Wow.
It was to illustrate a point about communication, the difference between being heard and actually getting through. And I thought, well, I'll use props, right? Too few people use props now, and
True.
I'll,
That's a
I'll
huge one that people should be using more of for the surprise.
yeah, good
And
props,
interaction.
interaction with the audience, game of catch. On the back of, I played catch on London's Central Line on the tube
Mm-hmm.
to try and break down a tube full of zombies into a
Yeah.
tube full of
Wow.
humans.
Yeah.
And we did that with a game of catch with a squidgy stress ball. It's
Mm-hmm.
I talk about it in the TEDx talk. I tell the story in the book. If
Yes.
you were on that tube, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
But it was massively unexpected to mid talk say, right, this is what it looks like. I will show you what the difference between being heard and getting through looks like. And the way I'm going to do that is we're going to play a game of catch. No one does this. This is this. If you're in the audience, you're thinking, hold on, what's happening? We're going to learn about communication by playing catch. Oh, yes, we are. Yeah, it was absolute, it was a frenzy. It was
Oh
chaos.
man. So was it one
Beautiful.
ball? I've got to watch the TED Talk. And anyone
Okay, so
listening
yeah,
should
if
watch this too. What's the title of the TED Talk?
so it's the walking off the map, the
Walking off
massive
the map.
difference
Mm-hmm.
between being heard and getting through.
There it is. Okay.
Quite a long title.
Yeah.
It's some time ago now.
Mm-hmm.
No, it wasn't just one ball. It was enough for 200 individuals.
Whoa. So
It was,
they were playing among each other.
oh yeah, it was
Okay.
a
Got it.
lot of squidgy stress balls.
Wow.
Yeah, because
Okay.
once they were out there, the game was they would then have to throw them to someone else.
Yes.
Once you'd caught the ball and thrown
Yes.
it to someone else, you could then sit down. So it
Mm-hmm.
didn't take that long. Watch the TEDx talk. It's
Yeah. But
uh,
as an exercise, it sounds like, well, people have to, in quotations, listen. So have that kind of sensory awareness of, is there a ball going to be thrown at me? They have to respond by catching. It's communication. You're using the ball as a metaphor for what human communication is.
yeah, I've used it a few times now
Yeah.
because it's a great
It's beautiful. It's a
for
really
me.
nice
It's a nice way to
physical. Mm-hmm.
illustrate
Yeah.
some of the points I'm trying to make. What I didn't realize, Laura, foolishly, absolutely, and this is kind of from a viewer's point of view, highlight of the TEDx talk. Um, did the exercise. It was brilliant, chaos, brilliant, loved it. Finished the exercise, carried on with my talk, and didn't, for some reason, appreciate that I'd now armed an audience
Yes.
with squidgy
Balls.
stress balls.
Exactly.
And what's a
You lose
human
the
going to
control
do?
there.
What's a human going to do with us? They've got a
They're
squidgy
gonna.
stress ball. Yeah.
Yes.
And they start launching them at me.
Oh man.
And I'm doing, yes, it's really important to me. Right?
Oh
Early
no.
days in my speaking career. It's a TEDx opportunity. Great.
Yeah.
And I'm being pummeled by missiles. It's great.
What a
Brilliant.
disaster.
Yeah.
But also, what a sense of joie de vivre that everybody's activated. That is brave, and that, coming back to that first point that you made about courageousness and being courageous, to get attention by having a surprise, to think outside of the box, to do something different with your creativity when you communicate with other people is such a breath of fresh air. We are gray, we are numb, we are tired. There's too many fluorescent lights above our heads. We're not outside. Get me to feel alive, and I will listen. But I think that there's a little caution here, because at least in the way I teach, I talk about energy and presence. And there are these presence circles that Patsy Rodenberg, my hero and mentor, has come up with. Are you familiar with her work, by the way? Do you know Patsy Rodenberg?
I'm not, no,
All
but
right.
that's a name I will I'll make
Yeah,
a note of.
check her out. And episode 41, I believe, of the Leadership Speaking Radio podcast is all about an homage to her.
Nice.
But essentially, she came up with this concept of the three circles of energy when it comes to presence and being present. So there's the first circle of energy, which is the circle of contraction. This is people who show up, they're not breathing, they're looking down, you barely hear them, they're mumbling, they're having an internal energy experience. And the opposite of contraction is expansion, which is, in Patsy's language, the third circle. This is where people push. and there's too much energy. And there's a wall that is, it's so intense that people eventually have to disconnect.
Mm.
And then there's a second circle, which is kind of this circle that you and I are in right now, where we're meeting each other where we are, and we're equals.
Yeah.
And that's where connection happens. So, in experimenting with balls and such, we have to feel, well, what's too much, what's too little, and what's just right. And I always say that a proficient communicator is good at all three of those circles, because your content is going to take you and move you to different places. But too much of any of them isn't good, just like too much of anything isn't good. So, what do you think about that? What's your feeling of that?
Yeah, totally agree. I think a true professional communicator will be able to flex that variety,
Yeah, exactly.
know when they've really got to kind of ramp things up, know when most of the content is going to be shared, and when to dial it down.
Yeah,
You know, same when we're communicating with a friend or telling a story, and we've lost this art as well of flexing this tool that we have of our voice,
yes.
knowing
Oh man.
when it gets exciting and we can
Yes,
speed up the use of our language and
that's
and
right.
and and, and take some of that energy into
Mm-hmm.
the way that we're telling a story, and then choosing when to slow it down or
Yeah,
when to lower the voice.
that's right.
And it sounds like it's almost a secret that you're about to share.
Exactly. It's magic. It's magic. What a versatile tool. And
Yeah.
how neglected I feel it is and taken for granted, honestly.
And the recent podcast of yours I was watching with uh, your mentor,
Yes,
Maria
Maria. Yeah.
Franzoni.
Yeah.
She talked about the information is everywhere,
Yeah.
and was kind of suggesting that we as speakers, professional communicators, help audiences focus.
Hmm.
Where out of all of the noise, where should we be putting our attention? How can we focus to make sense of what might be going on? And I think if you flex those three circles really effectively, then us humans will react accordingly.
Yeah.
You know, so it's we are all drowning in this noise, and too few of us are thinking about how do we rise above those ever present waves.
It's
And some of the
true.
tools we've talked about, that
Mm.
will help you surf above those waves. So it makes a massive difference to the way that we interact with one another.
100%. And, in the language of superheroes, these are superpowers. And our job, it seems, is to wake people up out of the sleep that they're in, pull them out of their caves, and arm them with, or rearm them. I mean, remind them even, because we don't need to rearm anybody. Everybody's already got it. Like, just remind people of what they've got going on in their entire body, from the top of their head to the bottom of their feet. The design is to communicate. So get out there and do it. I'm excited about this. We started the conversation talking about the lows, but there's a lot of potential. And there's kind of, this waiting thing that can happen. What does the world look like, Nick, if we've done our job?
Oh, wouldn't it be great if we start a revolution right now?
Yeah.
People are coming out of the cave. You can almost see them, right? Metaphorically,
Yes.
coming out of these caves. They're going out, and then they're leaving their devices behind, right? And they're just hungry to interact with one another, right? And to listen,
Yes.
to probably listen to one another, which people stopped doing that some time
Yeah.
ago.
You're
No one
right.
listens anymore, which is
Mm-hmm.
sad,
Mm-hmm.
because it's too hard. It's you have to shut up for a moment in your head, and you have to pour energy into listening to someone else. If Laura, if we are in any way successful in encouraging lovely humans to be to flex their skills that they've evolved to have, then we'll see the signs. We'll start to see people smiling more.
Yeah.
We'll hear the laughter to start with and think, oh, what's going on over there? And it'll be people, right? It'll be people interacting with like-minded people. I'd love to see this in the workplace, but it's a real tall order. Imagine,
Yeah.
when was the last time you went into the office and people were laughing and having
Yeah,
fun
no,
and
it's
enjoying
true.
themselves, rather
100%.
than just sharing mindless content?
Yep. And
Um,
emailing their neighbor instead of talking to the neighbor.
yeah,
Not to
yeah.
mention the presentations that people have to endure. And, with this kind of numbed person, zombie in your words, communicating. Yeah. The other version of that would be so much more interesting to listen to.
You could ask anywhere you go. You could ask, how much fun are you having?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you've just been to a talk. How was it?
Yeah.
Did you have a great time?
And what do you
Because
remember?
two different questions. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. What did you remember? What do you remember, and what are you going to do
That's
with
right.
that stuff? It's you and I know it's a ridiculous privilege
Yeah.
to be in a room with an audience, and we don't take that privilege lightly.
Hmm.
We do everything in our power to make sure the audience takes not just takes information away, but knows what to do with it, knows how it's going to be beneficial, the massive value in that, move the audience
Yes.
in a direction rather than just feed more content,
That's right.
which most presentations are just about feeding content.
Yeah. It's
And I
one-directional.
think Maria kind of mentioned it. There's a time and a place. Sometimes
Hmm.
I need the info,
Yep.
share the knowledge, give me the content so I'm educated. But there's a bit missing if we don't then take it forward and go, right, so now you know what it is, this is how you use it.
I love it. And it leads me to one more place, if you don't mind going there with me.
Absolutely.
Professional speaking. Because, what you're just describing right now is what professional speakers do for a living. What you and I do for a living.
Mm.
When we're not teaching and, doing our workshops and master classes. This use of our communication machine to do those things and the results or the rewards at the other end of that are exhilarating. Talk to me about your MO, your modus operandi in professional speaking. How do you get yourself jazzed up? How do you create, what are you thinking about when you're creating content? And of course, what are you thinking about and doing when you're delivering it?
It's a great question, and I think as professional speakers, we ought to remind ourselves that these questions are really important. So for me, I'm quite quirky. Okay, if you've booked me to deliver a talk, then you won't see anything like it. Okay, lots of people talk about communication. No one will do it like I do it, because I am absolutely obsessed with my audience,
Hmm.
as you should be.
Yeah.
Who are they? What do they do? How much time do they have? What's the world really look like for them? Um, and I want to be um, everything I possibly can for them.
Mm.
I never used to be like that, Laura. I used to be on stage and think, sadly, it was all about me.
Wow.
Wow, look at me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
In my early days, I was kind of on this bit of an ego trip, and I thought, wow, I've really arrived. I've got this audience, and they're listening to me.
Yeah, that's a
And
beginner's mistake.
yeah, really, and it
Mm-hmm.
really struck me. It really struck
Mm-hmm.
me. I can't remember exactly when, but it struck me. But it's nothing to do with me,
Yeah.
not
It's
about
not
me at
about
all.
you,
It's
it's about them.
absolutely about them.
Yep.
And what do they do with this, whatever it is you're sharing, however
Good.
you choose to share it? What are they doing with that? And when they do whatever it is, what's the outcome look like?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? What effect are you having on the world when you have this brilliant privilege of speaking to a room full of people? And the more the merrier. And you and I know full well, size of audience makes a big difference
Oh,
as
yeah.
well on how
Yeah.
we're delivering our content.
And we receive, I mean, I call that food. Like, that is energetic food. And that feedback loop is just, it blows the mind. I think it probably does blow the mind. All the circuits go off, and that reward of that communication working. And sometimes it doesn't work. Let's face it. There are things that we do and try that might not work, but we have to be very courageous and experimental. So, how do you prepare for a talk? Not now talking about the content, but what is sort of your ritual before you go on stage? Because you're about to give so much of yourself. How do you get ready like that?
Yeah, so I choose to have some quiet time,
Yeah.
just so I can kind of settle. God, I get very excited, very high energy.
Yeah.
Um, it- lots of fun stuff goes on in the talk. But I'm better if I ground myself beforehand. I've done it a number of times, so of course know where we're going with it.
Mm-hmm.
But just to not get carried away with the occasion,
Yes.
and just a little bit of grounding. So I'll do some breathing. I'll do some pacing around. I'll talk to myself, which I do a lot, just to remind myself what the purpose is of why we're here. What what are the audience going to get from it? So ideally, I do that uh, in a quiet space. Otherwise, it makes me look a bit odd.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Like
but
in the
yeah,
green room or in your hotel room beforehand.
definitely a bit of quiet and a
Yeah.
bit of breathing to kind of get myself grounded
Mm-hmm.
before giving of yourself.
Yeah. And that preparation also, like, and this is something, that distinguishes the professional speakers from the amateur speakers. Man, how much time and preparation you're putting into creating that talk and, rehearsing it. That it is of you, it is inside your cells, in the DNA. And then you can just get yourself ready, you're prepared, and you can sit back and release into the comfort of trusting your rehearsal, that you've done it before and it's in you. And I find that people who haven't prepared to that level, who might be kind of winging it or bullet pointing it or that kind of version, their performance is going to be so different than somebody who's prepared. Because I always say that public speaking is a performing art. And I don't know why the rest of the world doesn't talk like this. This is one of my soapbox topics. Public speaking is a performing art like theater, dance, music. And a speaker's art is the effective delivery of the spoken word, with this message that is compelling, that draws attention, that has a meaning for the audience. And then now it's going to be delivered with the full body and range of that human talking. And when I frame it to my students as a performing art, most people kind of silently gasp, because then they're like, yeah, they're like, oh man. And a lot of people get really uncomfortable. I see them shifting in their chairs. They look around. What time is it? Are we almost done here? And I think, and I wrote about this in my book, Nowhere Left to Hide, I think people feel the weight of a performing art like, man, that's high stakes. Like, that's the real deal. And my layer after that thinking is it's craft.
Hmm.
You have learned craft. And I feel like the tools we've talked about today, Nick, and your descriptions of how you prepare is an example of craft. That these are skills that you have, and you have heightened and polished and honed, and are now using them for what they're for. And the reward, what is the reward for you and the audience as a result of you doing all that work?
So it's multiple rewards, but realistically, the thing that makes all the difference, if everything you intended, everything you planned and rehearsed and spent a lot of time and energy thinking, what's the best way of making this happen, is when you see that happen.
Yes.
When you have a conversation with the audience and they give you their version or they tell you their story, that because you've shared this, because you've illustrated that, they've got some clarity around how they progress forward. And it sounds a bit, I don't know, oh, it's all about the audience. But when you've done it before, when you've done it as a profession, as a craft, um, and I imagine actors on stage are
Yeah.
like this, that their reward is the reaction of the audience.
Mm-hmm.
You could pat yourself on the back as much as you like, but until you've moved the audience, all of that self-congratulations is meaningless.
It's so well said. And it's in that service, it's in that giving that somehow, at least personally, I find meaning. It's not by taking from the audience, it's by giving them something. And you give something when you use all of you. So this conversation is blowing my mind on multiple levels. There's so much in it, there's so much richness. Your perspectives are so valuable. I'd love to hear about one more thing, if you don't mind. And that is generations, communicating between generations, communicating with our kids. It's an open book. What are your feelings about that topic?
It's a great question, and it's a tough one. But for whatever reason, and I think I understand the reasons, the question I get asked most by my audience is, how do I communicate with my kids?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, we are struggling to communicate from one generation to the next. And I think that the difficulty comes is that generation are, are very different from us in the way that they communicate amongst themselves. So my generation are familiar with, we used to pick up the phone, we're familiar with a face-to-face conversation. So if push comes to shove, we can do that. We've grown up kind of in company with one another for all of our interactions. The next generation down, my kids' generation, were brought up in a world where a lot of those interactions happened not face to face. They happened
Yeah.
across their technology and various different platforms. And that's prepared them differently from the world that we are in. Um, so there isn't any straightforward answer to the how do I communicate with my kids. What I tend to suggest is you've got to meet your kids in common ground. And that common ground isn't how we used to communicate. And it's not just how they communicate. There's some hybrid, might be the right word, it might not be. There's some middle ground where we are slightly uncomfortable, but we can do it. And they are slightly uncomfortable, but they can do it, where we've got some value from both sides.
I wonder what that looks like. I'm a practical
It,
person.
I think it looks different from one family to the next.
Okay.
What would it look like for you and your kids, for example?
We'd play
Um,
board games. We would. Well, okay, I guess it's a mixture. I mean, I'm still blown away when my son helps me like solve some computer problem and his fingers just
yeah,
whiz
yeah.
away. I feel really old and like, analog compared to my children. But, they wow me with that kind of stuff and I wow them with my analog stuff. And I feel like we're both kind of fascinated by each other. And maybe that's the meeting place where it's like, wow, you're really good at that. Help me, and then we benefit from each other. I don't know. What about you? What's
Uh,
your version of that?
yeah, similarly, that my youngsters are an absolute whiz on their
Yeah,
technology. Of course, that's their world.
right. They're digital
Um,
natives.
yeah. So I've got stuff to share. They've got stuff to share. It's just creating an environment where
Hmm.
that can take place. Um, and it could be a bit of tech support
Yeah,
from your kids, opening up a conversation
that's right.
about, wow, you really know your stuff.
Yeah, that
Um,
curiosity.
yeah, my skills, I have skills, but they're different. They
Yeah.
look like this, and your skills
Hmm.
look like this. Somewhere, teach me how to do that, and I'll teach you how to do this.
That's right.
I think they are healthy conversations to start that, just bridging that gap a
Hmm.
little bit.
I like it. I like it a lot. In fact, I love it because I think that's where the two worlds meet, an island there in the middle. And you lean into their world a little bit, they lean into yours, and you both benefit. So, wow, fascinating topic, one that we could do another podcast episode on if we ever come up with more answers to those questions. But let me now start to wrap this conversation up. Earlier, you held up your beautiful book. Can you do it again? Hold it up and talk to us about this book and where we can find it.
Okay, so online, typically. It's a few years in now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I say online, you know where to look,
I know where. And say
sadly.
the title for the people who aren't looking at this as video.
So this is, oh yes, of course, lovely audible people. This is Modern Zombies,
Mm-hmm.
how to stay ahead of the horde and communicate your way to incredible success, or just Modern Zombies, which people refer to it as. It's also on Audible. My son did the voice, which is
Nice.
very, he's brilliant. He's brilliant.
Yay.
They do say, oh, you should do your own book. You should do the voice of your own book. And on this occasion, no, James did a much better job than I would have done. It's brilliant. So it's available online. Took 2 years, Laura, of blood, sweat, and tears to
Mm.
write. And it explores three kind of ways to around communication, how we communicate with ourselves, how we communicate with our tribe,
Mm-hmm.
and how we should communicate with an audience.
Wow.
And in today's world, in
Yep.
today's overwhelming, very noisy world.
It sounds so current. It sounds like something that everybody should have on their coffee table because it's kind of a crazy time and place to navigate as communicators. And any guidance we can get is well received. And a little bird told me that you're working on another book. Do tell what you can.
Yes, the follow-up to Modern Zombies, still don't have a title for it, but
Yeah.
it's being written.
Yeah.
It's where Modern Zombies left off,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on in the world now, and how we can flex the human-centric communication tools.
Yeah.
And it's not just me. The new book will be a host of people. How are you doing it? Either good, either bad, either
Okay. Oh, that's
struggling
interesting.
or excelling.
So it's like case studies or interviews?
It'll be interviews. I need to
Yeah.
hear from those people that are doing it
Fascinating.
really well and those people that are really struggling.
Yes. And if I may, in our pre chat before we press the record button, we were talking about this second book and just how the world is changing so quickly. The earth is shifting underneath your feet and you're writing to keep up with the pace. What is that experience like for you as a writer and how do you stop? What is your kind of self-discipline for, okay, this is where I've got to stop writing about this because I don't know what's going to happen.
I wish I was more self-disciplined, Laura, because it's already taken longer than it should
Yeah.
take. Because I'll have a good idea and I think, oh, I need to explore this and I'll explore that. Um, I need to apply more discipline. And that's why a publisher would probably help and
Yeah, a publisher
kick
would
me up
help.
the backside.
Mm-hmm.
But a bit of writing every day, and
Yeah,
then I need to draw a line in the sand and
that
say,
makes
at
sense.
that point, the writing finishes, and then all the other work
Yeah.
can
And
continue.
honestly, I don't know if you make use of writing circles. They are one of my favorite things. Do you get together with other writers
No,
ever?
but I should. I
This
should.
is it, not having a publisher, because I've self-published all my stuff. Like, man, I need collective intelligence. I need other writers saying, well, too much, too little. It's such a great resource. And to our point of communicating with other humans, a writer's circle is kind of the epitome of that. So that could be something that might be useful. But
Massive
okay,
takeaway. Yeah.
yeah, cool. Nick, I want to give you the last word. What do you want to leave the audience of Leadership Speaking Radio with?
Thank you very much, Laura. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Lovely audience. If and you do get opportunities to communicate with one another, please take the stairs. Don't ride the escalator. Take the stairs and flex those human-centric skills that you know you have.
It doesn't get better than that. Honestly, that just made my mouth water. On that note, thank you, Nick, for your amazing wisdom, time, and courage and energy. It's been wonderful to have you on this podcast.
Thank you very much.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed having a conversation with Mr. Nick Looby. Subscribe now to Leadership Speaking Radio, wherever you listen to podcasts, to be sure not to miss an episode. And don't forget to visit the website, theleadershipspeakingschool.com, to find out more about how you can show up as the best version of yourself every time that you speak to your peers, teams, and customers. And most of all, to help this podcast grow, please give it a 5-star rating. Folks, it really does make a difference, and it helps other people find this podcast. So that's all for now. It's been a total joy and pleasure to have this conversation with Nick. I hope that you got a lot out of it, lots of golden nuggets for you to take out there with you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your ears, and I'll talk to you next time.